Yeah, immersive.
Yeah, full dive, I think, is what people have been more into. If you're able to, if we're not using tracking with our hands anymore and we're actually just thinking or dreaming even about being in VR and that moves you around.
Hello, welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion.
I'm old man Raptor, and we got one hell of a guest here today, and that is, ouch, I just hit my desk.
Hello. My name is officialcharles. Sometimes I go by ChilloutCharles, and I am founder of Vrchat biosensing. Yeah. I also made the little hobby project known as VrChat, which is currently running a couple of things on my avatar, specifically the ear colors and the tail wag, or ear patterns as well. So
Oh,
yeah.
so I have a
Oh.
whole lot of questions. One, what is biosense and how does it work? And how did you get started with this whole project?
Okay, so we just call it biosensing because it's sensors that we put on ourselves, detecting life signs, stuff like that. When because I wasn't the only one that co-founded this. I actually have someone else, a friend of mine named Hazy. He co-founded it with me after days of pushing me to make the Discord server. But yeah, no, we call it biosensing because we wanted our focus to be more general. But before this, all I really worked on was the brain flows into VRChat repository, and that's the thing that I'm wearing right now. Well, no, I'm running something called brain flows into VRChat to get values off of this headband that I'm wearing. It's got 4 electrodes, figures out my brain waves from there, does a little fancy math, and hopefully it looks good on the other end.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, you said, how did I get started with this specifically?
Yeah, the whole project and what do you do? Did you have some experiences in real life or is something you just kind of picked up directly in VR chat?
Well, during my time, I started like what, 2019. Around the end of that, I was wowed by just being on VR chat and doing all the things that you can do. I think most of us watching kind of already know what that's like. So I thought maybe there's more to do, and so I heard from just looking around online that there's this little piece of hardware called the Muse 2. Pretty old tech by this point. The Muse one first came out in like 2016, and you get it used for like some 80 to $100, maybe 160 if you want something newer. I picked one up 2019, and I wanted to try and use it to move myself in VR, right? Like replace joystick controls. Uh, Unfortunately, at the time, VRChat OSC didn't exist back then. That's the protocol that VRChat has now that allows you to have VRChat talk with third-party applications, by the way.
Hmm.
But yeah, that didn't exist back then. So my headband just went back into storage and gathered dust. And then I just did what every other VRChat user does while being on here, just kind of living life.
Hmm.
Then once, VRChat went into beta for this OSC protocol, I was kind of excited because I got to see a lot of people using it for a bunch of really funky things,
Hmm.
right? Obviously, there's the heart rate sensor guys. That's always fun to see. Some other people were binding their DJ decks to OSC so they could start controlling their avatar by spinning the decks. That's always funny.
Hmm.
But one night, while I was slowly passing out and just kind of, yeah, I was slowly passing out while in a Discord call with a bunch of friends, and uh, couldn't sleep, right? You know, you have one of those nights you just can't. And so just out of nowhere, I was like, wait a minute. Oh, right, that thing that's gathering dust in my storage. So it's 2, almost 3 a.m., dug that out of my storage bin and started writing something in Python and just, spent the next some hours just working on it until I got the very first version of VRchat. And I saw that the numbers were coming out and I was like, wow, that was easier than I thought. And because VRChat uses the OSC protocol, interfacing with VRChat is a lot easier now too. And so the next day, I worked on a test bed using Rantis's Nanachi model, and from there was history. I moved my ears. It was like crazy to see. A lot of people at the time were going off about it, and yeah, that's how it started.
Wow.
We just kept iterating on that as we went, or at least I did. Yeah.
Oh. So how does the biosense read brainwaves to translate it into like ear movements or tail wags? Like how does it know what you're thinking about?
So that's the thing, right? That's the huge misconception. It doesn't, as of right now, right, with the stuff that I'm doing, it's all focus and relaxation scores. I can split it between left and right sides of your head, but we're talking about general brain states here. So there's no reading your mind here. Not yet. But how most people in the community I run, how they've figured out how to sort of get some control over it is, instead of having the computer try and read your mind, you force yourself to have these brain states. You force yourself to try and get more focus on the left side or more focus on the right, and then they bind their animations to that, and that's how they get some semblance of control doing that sort of thing. So that's how some people have started using it. Honestly, it's kind of crazy, right? Because for me, I never intended it to go that far. The reason why I got off the ground so quickly with this project back in the day was because I kind of tempered my expectations. Right, 2019, I was thinking, oh man, I'm gonna replace my joystick with this, and found like how hard it was. So I like lowered it back down to just like, well, maybe we can just guess emotions instead. Focus and relax. You could, if you're excited, you're gonna be focused and excited. So maybe that can be an indication of emotion. So I went with that instead, and yeah, just immediately hit the ground running with that, and it was so much easier to implement. So yeah, that's where we are with that, at least.
How
Notice though, I said not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Not yet. I'm working on something.
Oh, so I take it you're gonna try and figure out how you can do that? The whole brain ready stuff.
Well, I sort of have something working right now. I kind of just.
That is
This
cool.
That thing right there, that's not based on focus or relax alone. That one I made using machine learning.
Oh, machine learning.
So yeah. Yep.
So
there's a lot of fancy stuff behind the scenes, but the point is now I'm actually trying to do more actual, associate brainwaves to thoughts type thing. So no, yeah, we're going away from the general stuff, or at least trying to. It's really hard, really hard.
Oh.
But yeah. Anyways, you have more questions for me?
Oh, trust me, I have lots of questions for you. Fair warning, this could go on for about an hour or more.
I'm ready for it. I got my drink here. I'm good. I've got my my drink right here. So yeah.
Oh, so with that other thing you showed us, how does that work if it's not on brain states, since you brought up that the ball?
So, here's the thing, right? Most of the papers I read going into neuroscience that aren't related to machine learning, the way they do their things is they will pay attention to the frequencies that are coming off of your brain. I
Mhm.
should probably go into more detail about that, right? All right,
Yes,
let's start at step one,
please
right?
do.
When a neuron fire, yeah, yeah, for sure. We will be here a while. So when a neuron fires, there is a noticeable voltage difference. Really small, but it's there whenever that happens. You get a lot of those. I forget how many billions of brain cells you have. You get a lot of those, and you get something noticeable enough that you can pick it up coming off of your forehead. Um, frequency, you can also name that as like how quickly your neurons are firing at that time. And so that's how we get the general brain states, right? We have like the delta brain waves, the alpha, theta, gamma. I'm going out of order. Oops. But point is, we've got the base brain wave, which is, indicative of deep sleep. We have theta, which is indicative of deep relaxation. Alpha, which is more associated with, what was it again? With idle, or not idle. I think it's just, not thinking about much. You're just relaxed. Then beta, which is, what we usually use for focus, and gamma, where most of the higher level thinking happens. And gamma is the one I'm actually like sort of most interested in to try and get something out of. But yeah, I actually went in order. So from lowest frequency to highest. And that's all based on how quickly your clumps of neurons are firing at once.
Hmm. So you said in there that you're focusing more on gamma to get something out of it. Would you mind explaining why you chose that frequency specifically?
Yeah, like I said, there's already been a couple of papers that sort of focus in that range, and plus everything I've read so far says that it has that sort of thing. So I just decided, you know what, maybe I should focus on that. Eventually, I just decided, you know what, I think I might need more than just the gamma brain waves for this sort of thing, and then just let the machine learning algorithm think through and do better associations than I can figure out. So yeah, just for basics, right? Those are just the basic frequencies. There's a problem with this though. If you're, say for a moment you're trying to capture 2 seconds of brainwave data and you just immediately turn that into frequencies. If you had a spike of focus inside of those 2 seconds, I can't tell you where in that 2 seconds it happened. I can only know that it's inside of that window.
Hmm.
So there's like two choices. Either you make your window smaller, like make it half a second, quarter of a second, or you just accept it and just move on with your life. And that's what my project has been for like the last two some years before coming up to now. That's where the focus and relaxation scores actually come from, is just, just accepting that, you know what, maybe this is good enough. Those 2 seconds, you get those focus and relaxation scores. It's very reliable. You can't go wrong. Um, at around, let's say, 6 months ago, I found out about something that allows you to um, get the in between. You get the time aspect
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, a certain event inside of this 2 second window happened. But you can also get like the frequency information as well. But the downside of it is you do lose a little bit on accuracy. But I don't mind that too much because, again, I was going to throw that data into a machine learning model anyways and have it do the associations from there. So from there, and this is important, right? Like this ability to know where exactly events happened, because now with that I can get a better idea of in order, right? Like, oh, maybe I had a little bit of quiet, low frequency here, then suddenly a spike here, and then none here, and then spike and spike again. The machine learning model picks up on that, and then we can start making those associations. Now, granted, what I'm running right now is completely a black box, so I have no idea what it's learned. But I guess it kind of works. I mean, if I just stop for a moment and think, right? Yeah,
Wow.
learn something.
Oh, so when you say
So yeah,
you're running a black box, are you using yourself as the study to see for the machine learning?
yes, absolutely. That's actually one of the things that I sort of wanted to make sure. You know how it is with, our personal data and that sort of stuff. And I didn't want to be like the guy who tells everyone to, hey, give me your brain data. Oh, it's okay. Trust me. I'm not going to do anything with it. Like, I don't want to be that guy. And I really
Hmm.
don't. So, part of the way I'm doing this is, and this project is open source, so other people can take this and run it themselves. And the model is trained against their brain data almost always. No, not almost always, always. As it stands right now, none of their data goes out of the program itself. I mean, apart from what you sent to Vrchat, and they're not going to know much. So
Hmm.
because it's all just kind of processed at that point. You don't get the raw data. So yeah, that's essentially the latest part of this project that I've been working on.
Hmm.
Actually trying to figure this out.
So how in the beginning when you were first making that first process into even now where you're at, what kinds of things did you have to teach yourself to even get this off the ground in the first place? Because all of this seems well beyond me. Or did you have like any knowledge of it prior?
Um, I read a lot. I read a lot of papers. I did a lot of Googling. ChatGPT didn't exist back then, so I didn't even have that. So it was just a lot of back and forth, maybe asking a couple of friends what they knew. Some of them know better than I. No, it actually, matter of fact, a lot of people know better than I about this. But it is, yeah, I'm mostly self-taught when it comes to this, trying to just catch up. It's kind of already insane what other people have been able to do outside of VR. It was only recently that Meta released a blog post about how they're able to guess what you're dreaming about using
Oh.
something similar to what I'm doing, but instead of electrodes, they're using infrared sensors and paying attention to the blood flow inside of your brain instead. And for some people, or no, for some researchers, they find that this is more accurate. But I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any like quick off the shelf hardware for this sort of thing. So I've just been watching in the background for that one. But it's insane how like research institutions, corporations, all these guys with a lot of money and a lot of resources have already gotten to this point, and I'm just playing a lot of catch up. It's so much catch up.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
what motivates you to keep this going and why pick it up in the first place?
Well, I mean, I've always been enamored with the idea of being able to do things without ever like using your hands, right? You
Hmm.
just think something and then something comes into existence. Crazy that I'm even able to do that now. I think I was actually watching one of your interviews earlier with Jazzy Senpai, and she's she's got the right idea. What was it? Duct tape and dreams? Duct tape
Indeed.
and dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh. So yeah, no, but like I said, that sort of idea always permeates in the back of my mind. But I'm always still and you can ask this of anyone who's been in my Discord server. If you ask like how exactly like what exactly my attitude is with this, yeah, I'm really excited about this thing. But I also know the limits. Like 4 electrodes can only get you so much. Uh, there's already a lot of literature out there that says the sort of tech I'm using is really, really low resolution, and sometimes it gets disheartening because it gets you right.
Hmm.
Academic types will tell you that sort of thing too, and it's it is a little disheartening. But the thing that keeps me going, apart from the dream, right? The dream of at one point being able to do all this easily, is I want to make this, what's the word, democratized? I
Hmm.
mean, think about this for a moment. The fact that I'm even able to do this sort of manifest a fireball into existence on a piece of hardware that's as old as 2016 on I wouldn't say my machine's a piece of crap, but the way I'm doing it right now, it's pretty low.
Hmm.
The model I'm using for this is relatively simple in terms of like AI stuff. Like all of this is in comparison to what everyone else that I sort of compare myself to up there, research institutions and stuff like that. It's I'm a drop in the bucket. But by using any of this and even getting these sorts of results, it's that's what keeps me going. Like knowing that this can be done at this low a cost, that I can bring it to the people. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's what brings it in. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. That's actually really inspirational that you want to do that, and it's what pushes you just to teach yourself all these things. Did you find it to be
Mhm.
hard to read that kind of literature to get into developing this?
I mean, sort of. It's hard to say. Half the time I'm skimming through these papers. But then again, I do also come from a sort of academic background, growing up being sort of, pushed towards the get A's type of person. So, yes, I did grow up as a typical nerd, AP student, computer science. Yeah, very, very stereotypical. I even wear glasses. Very, it wasn't, yeah, I had the background for it for sure, but like, it's, I definitely wasn't specialized in neuroscience. No way, no way, Jose. But yeah, no. It's just every time I get up there, I almost feel like I'm just, I'm hanging out with the big boys. I can't keep up with these guys. But
Hmm.
I'll see what can be done.
Hmm.
Mm, see that I can get it to everyone else. That's for sure.
Hmm. Well, in terms of
But yeah,
like,
no not as difficult.
it does kind of sound like you're trying to compare yourself to the people with billions of dollars. I don't think you should be comparing yourself to them. Compare yourself to how you were yesterday. At least that way you can just focus on improving. And unfortunately, when you like keeping up with the Joneses, let's use social media and people's lives as a metaphor for this. When you go out and look at the social media and people are showing pictures of their lives, and you see a dude sitting with his beautiful girlfriend, you're thinking, man, I wish that was me. But the reality is, you're seeing a small snippet of a window of their life. It's not how it seems to be. For all you know, your life is better than
Yeah,
theirs.
I have to frequently remind myself that, like, yes, these guys, with their research institutions, their resources, their funding. I have to remind myself, like, I'm not part of some big team. We're just a bunch of scrappy hobbyists that made made something interesting.
Mm.
Every now and then we will get someone who's like, comes from that world, and I'm always like thankful for the sort of stuff that they bring in. I what is this? Like, I think I don't know how it is with most programmers, but we tend to use a lot of libraries, right? Just in general, where we always have like all these toolboxes that we use, and for me, that that kind of symbolizes like one thing when it comes to pushing this sort of envelope. Um, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, type thing,
Mm.
and do well not to forget it, right? I always appreciate sort of things that came before. Like most of my knowledge that comes from this always comes from some kind of paper, or maybe at some point I read up on, I don't know, some statistical tool like principal component analysis in order to try and uh, remove a little bit of noise coming out of the signals for this thing. But it's right. I wouldn't have been able to get here without the contributions of those before me.
Mm.
And I think that's something that I try to keep in mind a lot, because it's I what was it? It was only like a few months ago that the Discord kind of blew up, and then that Twitter post that I think both of you saw the Twitter post about that, right? Or
Yeah, wasn't it
you
Vive
you
who did?
read
I
through
I saw an
Vive.
article from Vive that showed Rantis using it because of the Twitter post, and I thought this was the single most coolest thing I have ever seen grace the internet, which is what led me to go looking for you. Which I very much appreciate the time you're
Yeah.
giving us the time to get to know you, because this is fascinating. At least to me, I find it fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's I'm glad you guys appreciate it, honestly. I know for a while this project, like I said, I started like 2 years. Wait, no, it's not 2 years now. I said 2019, right?
Yeah, it'd be 5
5 years. 5 years?
5 years.
No, okay. 2019 is when I bought the headband. 2021 was when I started working on this.
Hmm.
So yeah, 2 years. Three. Time's weird now.
Hmm.
But yeah, no. I forgot what I was talking about.
Yeah, it's all good. I can ask another question. So, is there, from all the way the headband's built now, how much is similar to the original build compared to where it is now?
The hardware itself hasn't changed at all. Um, I did switch libraries. There's a reason why it's called VrChat, because the library I'm using tries to make it hardware agnostic. So, you could take my piece of code, run it on research grade headbands, and so long as it's supported on that list that the BrainFlow library publishes, you can use what I've got and just immediately get on. So yeah, for those academic types who want to like, oh, I happen to have like a 128 channel on hand, you could totally pick this up and just go on VRChat and start like traipsing around with it.
No. No. Have you
So
ever?
like that's really the real difference.
Oh.
I don't think there's anything else apart from the new stuff.
Oh. So have you ever thought about either getting a new different type of headband, or incorporating other components into it so that it'll function more towards what your goals are?
I actually have. Wait, actually, let me count here for a moment. One, two, three, four. Four. I have four headbands. Um, I have the OpenBCI 8-channel low-cost research kit, which is like some $800. Yeah, I guess low cost relatively, right?
Mm.
Um, I have the Muse 2, which is the one I first started out with. 4 channels, so that's 4 electrodes, and it also has a heart rate sensor. And the one I'm using right now is the Muse 1, which is just the 4 channels by itself. I switch between the 2 Muses, and then I also have the BrainBit headband. That one is the one I logged the most hours on. In fact, I logged so many hours on that my contacts on that are green now from the
Oh.
copper oxidizing that I tarnished.
Oh.
So yeah, unfortunately, I broke that one. So it's just sitting there as a nice sentimental reminder of where I once started.
Oh. So between all those
Yeah.
headbands, which ones work better? Like for the whole thing?
Yeah. Um, depends on a couple of things, right?
Hmm.
First off, since we're all VR chat nerds here, um, headband has to fit under the headset. So that as someone who uses the Quest Pro, I can't fit the BrainBit headband under here because it gets in the way of the forehead cushion. But the Muses fit fine because there's a little space right in between the forehead and the eyebrows where it can sit. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm running right now. The Open BCI kit. Oops, sorry. Jeez. Right, go away. Go. Thank you. Still needs work. The OpenBCI research kit that I have, I used to have strapped up to my index back when I was still using that a lot. God, that takes a lot more setup, but theoretically, that would have been the best setup to have. If I could just work out the kinks on how the sensors of it work, and maybe clean up the noise coming out of it, maybe I could have gotten something out of it. But unfortunately, uh, the amount of time I would need to put into that versus the results I'm getting now just by focusing on the muses and brain bits, I got to stick to this. But yeah, apart from that, if you don't have a worry about forehead real estate, I'd say the brain bit is the best way to go. That is $500 though. It is 500, but it has really, really good contacts. They sit above your ears and on the back of your head. So if you really wanted to, you could start doing things like tracking. Well, I wouldn't say tracking eyes, but maybe get some sort of I wouldn't say visual information. Maybe something analogous to it. It's hard to say. There's a couple of papers that say like, oh, what if you like constantly flash some noise onto the screen, and they've actually figured out that you can actually pick up those same frequencies coming off the back of your head when that happens.
Oh.
Uh, yeah. Fun fact: that's actually exactly how the Next Mind headband works. I
Oh.
don't know if you watched Thrill Seeker's video back then when he picked himself up a was it Thrill Seeker? I think it was Thrill Seeker. Yeah. He picked himself up one of those and I observed it and then forgot about it for a couple of years. And then I read the paper and I'm like, wait, hold on, why does this sound familiar? Hold on a moment.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of things you can do with that. But BrainBit is my go-to if you don't worry about money. But otherwise, the muses are always like they're there. Like you can go to eBay, they exist there. You can go look it up. It's fine. Not sponsored, by the way. This is just my own like use of it. And a lot of people have said that value for money. Like this was fun for them too.
Hmm.
So
So
yeah.
within the project and everything you're doing, is there any other ways your community uses the whole system for that surprised you?
Oh, certainly. Two things come to mind. I think I've said it before that there was never any intention from me before, right? Before I started doing the machine learning stuff, I had no intention of doing any of that, like, ooh, use the force Luke, and then something appears in front of you. It was just going to be general brain states, showing emotion, and using that to improve or like make your avatars more expressive,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. That was my original intention. The first thing that surprised me was how quickly someone started making an aiming system that's based off of an anime
Oh.
and started trying to like control a robotic arm behind them to try and aim using their focus. And I'm like, huh? What? Immediately. But yeah, like it's kind of crazy that like people immediately started getting into it, implemented it, and showed that it like as a proof of concept, it can work.
Hmm.
Um, obviously some of us have like we of course gave our feedback where it's like, well, you do know that the headband splits the channels up, so you can totally do left versus right if you wanted to, that sort of thing. So you can, change your aim left or right. But yeah, like that's already exciting. The other exciting thing was the uses outside of VR. Um, a person reached out to me and asked me if it was possible to use this over like VTuber software, and I'm like, it could be possible. It's not like VRChat owns the OSC protocol. You could use the OSC protocol in anything that supports. And turns out there was.
Oh.
Someone found a workshop item for a VTuber software. I do not remember. Hashed it all out, took the values that come off of my software, piped it into the VTuber software, and immediately was able to start puppeting their ears on VTuber like avatars now.
Wow.
So now we span like two places now. It's not just VRChat.
Oh. That sounds
And
like
like
quite
yeah, like I said,
impressive.
that yeah, honestly. I mean, I kind of knew, well, okay, I knew, right, that the OSC protocol is not bound to VRChat or anything. Anyone can really pick this up and try to build something on top of it. I guess I didn't expect it to go so quickly. Holy crap. Wow. And of course, they already made a tutorial about it. Um, oh my God, I'm going to go down the list, aren't I? Make that 3. There are 3 things. And then, yeah, so now we're outside of VRChat doing that. And then the third one was this duo that figured out that, what was it? So OSC is also used by guys in music and DJs, stuff like that. Because OSC does sound for open sound control. And you can use it to control lights, if I remember correctly. So there is a piece of software out there that can take OSC data and start displaying it and controlling it and passing it along. Well, guess what that means, right? You have my program, you have Touch OSC, and then these guys, what they did is they remapped the values from whatever I usually give it to whatever an avatar on the other side needs, and then points it over. So now you don't even need to you don't even need to like make your avatar compatible with this. You can take any public avatar of which you know the sliders for and get it connected to this.
Wow. That's quite
So
impressive.
yeah, like that just blew open the doors.
Oh. So when getting an avatar, like prior to like having things almost open source for people to use, how would you get an avatar compatible with such with BrainSense?
Well, if I remember correctly, on VR chat, all of the sliders are from 0 to 1.
Mhm.
So what you can do is, like, say for a moment you wanted to examine left side focus. I have a parameter name for that. The Touch OSC recognizes, or not recognizes, you make Touch OSC recognize that parameter name, and then that parameter is usually from -1 to 1 because I'm used to that sort of range convention. But you can remap that inside a TouchOSC to 0 to 1 and then send it along to something that is controlled by the avatar. So if I remember correctly, uh, there was like a puppet avatar. I don't know what it's called. It's an avatar with like a little like giraffe mask,
I don't think I've ever seen it.
and one of the gags. Yeah, I'll describe it in better detail at some point, but the the gag on that is that you can adjust the size of that neck at will.
Oh, wow.
So this guy pairs focus right into the neck of this avatar, and then suddenly, like during our first meetup, we're just chilling, and then this guy walks up with his like head going up and down. He'll try to talk about something serious, and we can't stay serious because his neck would just shoot up.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
insane. So, I do have
Yeah. So there you go.
another question. How does your system know when you're focusing on something? Like when you're trying to summon the fireball, how does it know that you're looking for the fireball instead of like making your tail wag instead?
Um. Great mystery. Not sure actually.
Machine
That's
learning?
the problem with machine learning, right? Yeah. For the
Hmm.
fireball, I have no idea. I don't know what it knows. We can only explain. We can never say how.
Hmm.
That's as best as I can say. And give it the information. It makes the associations a couple of thousand times, learns something out of it, and hope to God that it's good.
Hmm. So,
That's what it ends up being. But the focus, that's easier.
oh, okay.
Like, yeah. So from the papers I read, beta brainwaves or the beta frequency is most often associated with focus. In order to get a better score out of that, I actually compare the amount of beta versus the amount of, say, okay, don't go away. Beta versus, I think it was theta brainwaves. The comparison of the two is what gives me the focus score. Because, when you're focusing, you're not going to be as, what's the word for it? Deep, the deep relaxation,
Hmm.
right? Because you're actively thinking about something. So, yeah, this one is at least a little bit more explainable. But for the fireball, who knows?
So, why get machine learning involved, and how was the process when you first started getting it involved with the system?
So those are two questions: how and why,
Yes.
right?
Yes. How and why?
Um, I'll start with why. I mean, first of all, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm doing here. What? the uh, the why is because hell, even now we don't exactly know a lot about how brains work. The only thing we can really do is like do these association games. And hell, even the research behind, knowing what a beta brainwave is versus a theta is in itself a simple association game as well.
Hmm.
And so the machine learning model I'm using is just doing the same thing, just a lot faster and with more granularity.
Mhm.
So because right, the frequency stuff doesn't have any event information, right? We don't know when things happen. We just know that in those 2 seconds it happened. Now now that I've sort of made that exist, using, oh god, we're gonna get math heavy here, the wavelet transform, guys. If you have time, look it up. It's a great piece of math that you guys should totally look into. Oh god, I'm nerding out now.
Go right ahead. If you want to nerd out about it, go right ahead. One of the things that Raptor and I really enjoy most is when someone, a VRChat player, even yourself for that matter, talks about something you're into. So if you want to nerd about math, go ham. Go ham for the next couple of hours if you want.
Okay. All right. So this actually is the reason why this comes up often so much is because it comes back to something called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. That stuff that you would learn about in quantum mechanics. Oh boy, it's not just there. It's everywhere. Anywhere that waves are involved. Oh man, you have no like. Think about this for a moment, right? When you're dropping when you're looking at the sea, right, you see a bunch of waves going up and down, right? You can tell how many waves are coming in a second, but can you tell me where exactly in those, in like the span of the sea, can you tell me exactly where those waves are centered at? Do you really know from the beach? Can you tell?
No. At
No,
least I
not
can't.
really. Yeah, not really. Compare that against something like a still pond and you throw a pebble into the water. You see a couple of waves come through. You can clearly tell the center of that pulse of waves coming through. But can you tell me like how many waves are in there? Like what is the frequency of those waves inside that pulse? Could you tell me like with certainty? Not really.
No.
It's kind of hard to tell. You only got that little like piece. That is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It exists in water, it exists in quantum mechanics, it exists with brainwaves. And it's one of the reasons why it's such a hard thing to do, right? If you only focus on event information, you lose out on the frequency information that is associated with thinking. But if you go into the frequency, yeah, now you can know what you're thinking about, but now you don't know when. The wavelet transform is a nice in between in the two. I won't go into the exact details about it, but safe to say you're losing accuracy for doing that, specifically on the low end. But the good thing about that is we don't exactly have to worry about that either, because all the stuff that we need for higher thought happens in the higher frequency range anyways. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that's going to make me seem very, very dumb, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is the difference between higher thought and higher frequency and lower thought and lower frequency?
This is something that like pops up every now and then when I'm reading through the papers. Higher thought is just, I guess you could also call it conscious thought, right? If you're like forming a thought in your mind or you're actively working on something, that's higher thought. Lower thought is, you know, just closer to deep relaxation or relaxing or deep sleep or yeah, I think I listed out most of it. There's more, I'm sure, but um, yeah, that's really the difference between the two. And I focus on the higher frequency stuff because again, the higher thoughts, yeah, the higher level thoughts happen up there, which too, and I focus, commanding things into existence or commanding yourself to move forward.
So, how have you figured out how to move yourself forward with thought yet?
It's not so much I haven't figured it out. It's more so I've been procrastinating.
Ah.
uh it's I just like I'm already so happy with the fact that I'm able to like pull out a fireball and like wowing myself, But yeah, no, it's the approach is the same.
Hmm.
You imagine yourself walking forward, you record that, you train the model, and then hope that when you think that same thought, you move forward.
Okay. So with the machine learning, it's just testing and teaching in a sense. The machine learning
Yeah,
AI.
that's essentially what it ends up being, honestly. A lot of my time is now spent talking with the other guys who are beta testing this because I haven't released this in the main branch. There's no way. I don't feel confident in releasing this quite yet, but it's there if you want to try it. But the beta testers have gone through and we're getting like wildly different results. And it's all because of how we record our brainwaves, specifically how we position ourselves in our environment. So, some people, what they'll do for the fireball Rantis specifically was imagining firebending. I was just looking at a picture of a fireball. Other people have been doing things like staring at static for their baseline. It varies way too much, and it gives like too much variation in how this model trains. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. I got to get this method a little bit more clean before I can confidently say, all right, guys, let's give it out to the world. It's, you know,
Hmm. Well, I will say personally, I'm excited for the day you do, if you do, because it sounds super dope. The whole concept of you working on this. So I pat yourself on the
yeah.
back. It's a pretty insane thing to build. It's great.
Yeah, every now and then, after hours of working on this and being like, yay, it finally works, woo. I'll hang out with a couple of my friends and just kind of chill for a moment. And then in the quiet moments, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Oh, no. With this? No. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's been a journey.
Hmm. So I'm gonna ask you a similar question that I've asked many people, such as Jazzy Senpai, for example. At what moment did this project feel real to you?
It's always felt real to me. Um, I don't know. What do you mean by real, actually?
Um,
What do you mean by that?
like the project is taking shape. That I guess like so when you saw, oh, this is just a fun project. To wow, this is a project that's happening now. I guess it's. I guess.
It's hard to say. I've always kind of seen my project as real, just because I was the first ever user of my own project. I just keep using it, and I see myself change, and it's kind of hard for me to say it wasn't real because it is real to me. I'm doing it right now. But if we're talking real, as in picked up steam and other people have started adopting it, um, it wasn't even during the blow up at around February. It was actually earlier than that, when it was only just a couple of my friends who were interested in the idea, picked themselves up a muse, and then had a lot of fun with it. Like, that's, if you want to talk about real, that's when it became real, I guess. Was seeing some of my friends using it, and it's like, yes, yes, see, look at that. Ah, haha, I can tell. What was it? We'll have a conversation about like topics that we'll claim we're not into, but then you look at their ears moving down, and it's like, you're lying. You're so relaxed right now. We know. Yeah, I myself have been uh, I myself have been caught in that situation as well, where I'll just be, laying back and relaxing, and a couple of my friends are, getting all nice and silly, and I'm like, no, whatever. I'm where no, and it's like, nah, screw you, Charles. You're good with this too, and I'm like, oh, you okay, so maybe that is a downside. People might know what I'm thinking. Huh.
Hmm. Well, it's a lot like real life. Whenever you're talking with people, people have body language and tells. And if you're like a anthropomorphic animal as well, you've got other ones. The way your tails move, the way your ears are positioned, and how they're moving. Same as real life. For example, you can tell where someone's focus is based upon where their body is positioned and where their feet are pointing. For example, if someone's facing you and has their feet facing out, you have their attention. But if someone's pointing to the door, for example, or away, they wish to be away. It's of a similar vein to that.
I see. I see. Yeah. Yeah, I can get with that. I mean, that's sort of. I mean, we're talking about me using this for emotion, and I'm surprised that people are now able to read me better. Ooh.
Well, in terms of
Uh,
in terms of the virtual world, it is one of the more exciting futures because people want this to be more immersive. Being able to read and get know what the person's feeling within a virtual landscape, which before is just like finger gestures, for example, is brings us a little bit closer to that really awesome uh words I'm bad future that which most people wish to see in VR or the metaverse, quote unquote.
get more. I don't know what the word for it is. I mean, yeah, immersive is one.
That's
Maybe
the
getting
word.
closer to full dive.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
immersive.
full dive. I think is what people have been more into. You know, if you're able to, if we're not using tracking with our hands anymore, and we're actually just thinking or dreaming even about being in VR, and that moves you around. Um, yeah, I think that is like the. I think maybe that's the end game when it comes to full dive.
Mm.
I don't know if I don't know if we're close. I'm not sure, but uh, doing this little project has been fun, even if it is just going to be like, I guess, a really small stepping stone for this sort of thing.
Mm. Well, every long journey begins with a single step. Don't underplay what you're doing. How do we, for all we know, the project you're working on could be the project that sent the rest of this path of brain reading metaverse technology down a different direction, which led to full dive or whatever may happen. Give yourself some credit.
Yeah, no, I just call it small just because of what it is. I'm not I'm not calling it small because of its impact. I mean, I realize that now, paying attention to uh what was it in the last few months, just paying attention to how people received it once, this got into, what's the word for it? I guess a more general space.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the impact now. But yeah, it's just small in that I'm never gonna forget how it started as a fever dream at 3 a.m.
Hmm. How, from your perspective, when seeing the impact once the whole thing started leaking out, what was the populace's general reception and response to it?
All like it was great. It was kind of interesting how so many people are so enthusiastic about this sort of thing. I mean, I myself was just this is just for emotion, guys. I just wanted to make our avatars look a little more interesting, and then you guys are doing crazy things with it. And I don't know. I guess there must have been like sort of some knock-on effect because then other people were hyping each other up, and I'm like, guys, calm down, calm down. Like I said, I always end up being the realist in these sorts of discussions, but it doesn't matter. And these guys are excited. They are excited for this sort of thing. I guess maybe that's the thing. I don't have the animator's perspective, right?
Hmm.
I'm the guy who's working in the back, running the math, trying to get some workable numbers. I don't always get to see how those numbers get expressed. And I've said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. This is why I have a massive respect for animators and artists, because without them, my stuff has like it's just a bunch of numbers, right? Like I don't know how to make this look sexy. I mean, okay, maybe I have some ideas. I have some idea of aesthetics, but like nowhere near the sort of thing that the people who are actually good at this do. And so, yeah, I have a massive amount of respect for the kind of people who take this and then turn it into something that looks really, really good.
Hmm. So
Hey, Rantis.
sorry for the
Yeah,
coughing
it's your
personally.
fault, by the way.
It's your fault.
It's your fault. It's your fault. I hope you know that.
Mask, why is it Rantis's fault?
Because he's one of my friends who picked up a muse, and what was it? The story goes that on one night he's trying to watch Attack on Titan, right? He's getting tired of people asking him about the brainwave stuff, because like at this point there was like maybe 10 people at most asking about this, but they were always asking. And so it was like, all right, you know what? I've had it. You want to know more about it? Here, I'll make a Twitter post. You guys can look at it. I need to go watch Attack on Titan.
Fair.
And
Well,
now that thing's got 6.9 million views. All because he just didn't stop bothering me. Try to watch Attack on Titan. Oh,
oh,
oh man.
well, since you're sitting with us
Oh.
explaining everything, what are some of the common questions that Rantis was being bombarded by?
Oh, I mean, obviously, the first one is like how to get it set up. And, we're always, for the most part, open to answering questions, right? That's actually part of the main reason why this Discord even starts in the first place, is so we can guide people into getting into it. And then once there, and then they can figure out their own things about it, maybe express the numbers in a different way, and use it maybe to control an arm, use it maybe to cast spells, use it maybe to make your ears look interesting. Loads and loads of things that I myself wouldn't just be. I'm only one person. I only got like a set amount of ideas to work with here, and I'm already kind of preoccupied. So hell, the fireball I'm using isn't even mine. It's not mine. It's actually a friend of mine, Pavos. He's the one who created this fireball for me as part of a joke from, yeah, it's just an inside joke about a movie we all watched at some point. And took that fireball after a couple of weeks of just not touching it, and then finally like putting it into my avatar after I got a little bit more confident with the machine learning stuff. So again, it's a lot of respect for creators, honestly. Like, they're what make I wouldn't say it gives my work meaning, but it certainly helps.
Hmm. I can only imagine. So, with the machine learning after you incorporate it, was any results or anything out of it that pleased or surprised you?
Um, hmm. I know it's kind of weird, but it I don't know. I didn't expect this to immediately be accurate. I mean, yeah, it's kind of popping in and out as we're talking, but um, for if we're just training it and then comparing it to any of the other pieces of data that we found in the recording that we never showed it, right?
Hmm.
It's kind of crazy how quickly accurate it became. Now, granted, it's accurate to that data set. You bring it to the real world, and it's still kind of could be a little, could use some work.
Hmm.
But it's yeah, no, I'm I'm surprised how quickly this actually worked. I mean, yeah, there's more work to be done, and we got to make this even more general, right? One of the things that we noticed uh, in the first few versions of this was um, train it. It works well, sort of, during like the first day, and then the second day it wouldn't work at all, not at all, because I don't know, it must have like drifted, like yeah, you're there's this concept of data drift when it comes to machine learning where your model is trained on some idea of the population, but the entire population has shifted to a new like average, and so the model can't effectively know what's going on because it's moved on.
Mm.
That's the thing. Machine learning isn't always learning. You have to actually go in and train it well, not train it yourself. You have to actually be, what's the word for it? Intentional with training your models. And so that's one thing that we ran into. Right now, though, it seems to be doing okay. The recording information that I'm using to train this is actually from, I want to say like 2-3 weeks now, and it's still, it's still doing fairly well. So I'd say we're getting there. But yeah. Oh, geez, I drifted again, didn't I? What was the question again?
Oh, no. The original question, I guess, what started us down this rabbit hole. Fair warning, I will willingly take you down those rabbit holes. I enjoy, like, once people get sidetracked, it's like, oh, there's this thing. So it's equally my fault for asking questions. The initial question was, what were some of the most commonly asked questions about the thing to
Surprising
Rantis?
things?
No, I'm going to take us back a few steps from not just surprising things. Oh, am I crashing? No.
No, you're fine. You're not crashing.
Oh,
Nobody's crashing that I know of. I think he is.
indeed. Oh,
There there he's slowly coming back.
oh.
Give him a few minutes.
You
Few
alive?
minutes. He's waving his eye.
Oh.
Am I back yet?
You're back. You're perfectly
Yeah,
back.
Oh, okay.
I was actually going to
back.
take you back a few questions to what were some of the most commonly asked questions to Rantis. Like when you, like the initial blowout, people like, what's this? What's that? How do you do this? What were some of the commonly asked things?
Ah, I mean, yeah, like the question that always comes up, and I think you've already asked this too, is like, does this actually read your mind? And yeah, it doesn't, right? Right. The stuff that's the most reliable on this, right? The focus and relaxation scores. Yeah, we're not reading your mind. We're just reading general brain states, like sort of analogous to emotion.
Hmm.
So nothing that complex. At least
Hmm.
not yet. Working on
Hmm.
it. The other one, I think it's funny because, I talked about animators and creators for VRChat a lot, and this is probably why. The second most asked question is, how do I make this on my avatar? It immediately always turns into a Unity question, a modeling question, animation question. That's also the other thing that like comes up often. And honestly, I'm not equipped to answer that. I almost always throw it back to Rantis and be like, hey, you actually went to school for this. Hey, you figure that out. I'm trying to figure something else out here.
Oh, poor
Yeah.
Rantis. I know you want to watch Attack on Titan, buddy. Stick through it, bud.
Stick through
it.
Wow.
Oh,
Uh,
you mentioning machine learning and AI and brain reading, that actually kind of reminded me of something. So I think it was Meta or Google that was capable of replaying a song while it was paying attention to your brain. So you would think about the song, or you'd be listening to it, and through you listening or thinking about it in a very garbled kind of way, was capable of replaying it back. It wasn't very good, but you
Reconstructing
could
it.
tell. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with how they're doing that. Well, okay, not fully, but like I get the gist. That's very much so what's happening here is not only now are they doing associations, but they're also using generative AI to try and reconstruct what you think is the music and then playing it back out loud. I'm sort of delving into that a little bit. I actually have an idea of how, because that was going to be my next step. I wanted to try something that was like semi-supervised, and following that the same sort of approach that the guys you're talking about are doing. I want to have a better understanding of what's some good things, what's some features that I want to extract out of the brain waves, and then train the rest of my model against that. The way I'm doing that is I actually found out about this like a week ago, but MIT maintains a publicly available database of EEG data that is related to motor imagery. That's the fancy name for think about something and you're moving something forward and back, or think about something and you're moving your virtual arm.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm taking that data set and throwing it into an autoencoder, which is half discriminator, half generative. And what I'll do with that is the discriminator will try to. It actually follows the same step, right? It takes the brain waves, brings it down to a smaller space of numbers, and then tries to reconstruct it back out, much in the same way that that thing that you were talking about. It will. Was it?
Reconstruct the
It'll
music.
try to reconstruct the music from there. But the hope is that whatever is learned in the middle is relevant features that, I mean, not any of us will really know. Again, this turns into a black box. And from there, I just throw away the generative stuff and then put another model on the back. And that will be the part that actually classifies what actions you're doing. So now we have something that's trained on the MIT database, but then the other half is stuff that's trained on you. And hopefully, because of the way the first model knows how to extract relevant features, the other model trains a lot better, a lot more general. And then you can start doing even more actions just because it just now knows how to read your brainwaves better.
So it's more akin to like with ChatGPT 4, if you wanted to have it know how to do, like, let's say plumbing, for example, you'd put plumbing textbooks or information into ChatGPT, and they give you a set amount of information you could feed it, and then afterwards, that ChatGPT you can then use to train to do whatever. Is it akin to that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There's actually a name for this. It's called retrieval augmented. It's RAG. I forgot the G. I forgot what the G means. Retrievement augmented generation. I think that's what it was. But I think NVIDIA is the one that's working on it so that you can now run this model on your own. You don't have to. It was it. The model is trained on their data set for just understanding words. And then on your local machine, say you have a bunch of like textbooks in cybersecurity or something, you can go through and start to have it, train just a little bit more on top of that. And now you can start asking it questions or having it like build a lesson plan or something around those lines. And the additional part on that is the reason why RAGs are different from, say, just having a large language model prompt engineered into teaching you is RAGs are specifically designed to always reference back to the material. So there's less of a chance of it hallucinating the information. You will almost always get solid information that you can rely on.
Hmm. So this is me again asking a stupid question, but with a RAG, if you feed it information as you teach it, could you have it rewrite its own information that it can reference? So like as you teach it a bunch of things that it
Oh,
knows fact and
yes,
fiction.
absolutely. That's actually one of the bigger use cases. Summarization, I think, is what's it's called. You know, you want to get like main topics. Yeah, you can do that. You want to do specific important points. Yeah, you can ask it that. That's the whole. That's like one of the big use cases is to rewrite and focus or expand even, so long as it doesn't drift away from the initial information. There is a cap when it comes to rags. LLMs can hallucinate a little bit more because they don't have that constraint, but yeah, just for rags, it's very much, you can definitely have it rephrase things. Maybe if you feel like you don't understand a topic, you can definitely ask it to change the way it's talking about it. Even hell, you can have it talk in emojis if you wanted to.
Hmm. Well, speaking of like AI talking about things, I think back when I was in high school 2 decades ago, dear Lord, that's a statement I wish I never had to make. Back when I was your age.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
remember Google and Facebook were working with AI, and both of them were writing and speaking their own language, which I believe forced them to cut the project at the time, like back pre 2010.
Oh yeah, little it's interesting. I do remember seeing that article. That was cool. I didn't see that as like scary. I thought of it as like, wow, they found a better way to compress information. I guess. If the goal of language is to most efficiently communicate ideas with the least amount of effort, and they found a way to do it between AIs, I say more power. That's kind of cool.
Hmm.
Maybe we can invent a new language, try it out, and see how it goes.
Hmm. Then it's quite interesting. So between like now kind of pulling things back a little bit, are there any concerns you have by pairing an AI or machine learning with what you're doing? Or are you more excited than concerned?
Most of my concerns have already been kind of taken care of by design.
Hmm.
Like I said, my approach is to train against your own brainwaves. So long as you never share the model with anyone else, right? Or you share your brainwave data with anyone else, there's no fear of it like leaking out and someone else is taking it.
Hmm.
That's always been something that's kind of in the back of my mind, right? That like this, yeah, of course there's going to be of course there's going to be an issue of privacy because yeah, we're talking about brainwaves here. I, God, all right, I'm gonna level with something that kind of pisses me off a lot.
Hmm.
I remember reading a article. I think it was some CEO that was talking about taking the same headband that I'm using. Well, I don't know if it's the same headband, but like same level of tech, like 4 electrodes, pretty simple, nothing too fancy. They were going to take the focus numbers and use that as a way to monitor their workers' productivity. Like, holy crap, I hate that.
Hmm.
Like, shouldn't your work be like based on I don't know, just your output? Like what why are you like now going like it's bad enough like say if your manager is being I don't know, what's the word for it? Micromanaging, right? Like looking over your shoulder and making sure you're working. Now they're putting this on top of your head and they're like, "Hey Joe, I see you're not focusing at 2 p.m. here. You should be working." And I'm like, that's like the worst. All right. If I
Mhm.
find out that if one of you picks up my project and uses it for that, I'm gonna look for you and I'm gonna strongly send a strongly worded email to nicely stop doing that. Please, please stop. You're breaking my heart.
Hmm. Well, That may be something you want to think about in the terms of service when you release publicly, is don't use this for blah.
That's a thing. I've already released this publicly. It runs off of the MIT license. That's kind of the double-edged sword with this, right? I wanted this to be useful for everyone. And that also means the people who can totally misuse this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The raw.
that's a double-edged sword.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, at least by design, as it stands, none of your raw brainwaves are ever sent out into the open net. I am against that idea. All it's sending is the already calculated scores, maybe some general brainwave information, but other than that, nothing that's, I guess, tied back immediately to you.
Hmm.
So that's that's by design. I really, really don't like the idea of this being used for more than I I don't I'm getting mad just saying this. I'm running out of the words.
No, I very much understand. That is a concern a lot of things that, like, when I think of AI and all the stuff, it's just one of the things you're gonna have to bear in mind when we work on this tech. Because a lot of the people building things like AI, other than like OpenAI, you got Google and Facebook and all these other big companies working on it. Of course, they're gonna use it for things like that. It's just what happens when the government gets a hold of it. It's gonna be similar but large scale. Hell, China's doing stuff with it now, or between cameras and other stuff like that, they monitor entire populaces.
Yeah, I realize that. It is a disheartening thing. I don't like it, but you know, I can't be too what's the word for it? I can't be too sad about it because at the very least, when it comes to just within the circle that I'm in, within VR at the very least, VR chat. Actually, let's see. How many levels of niche are we in right now? Let's count. All right. VR user. All right. So that's one level. We'll go a little lower. VR chat user. That's already one level down. Uh Weeb. I guess that kind of brings that down a little bit more. Um let's think here. What else? Biosensors, that's another niche. Furry. Ooh, like, how much more? And let's not forget I'm also like full body gang. So like oh no, full body and face tracking gang. Yeah, like how much more niche can you get?
Hmm.
So, at least from a very provincial look, things are looking all right. The attitudes of the people I see around me are very much. It makes me happy that we're not out here being malicious. Thank God. Um, and for the rest of the time, it always only ever comes out in jokes and be like, "Hey, yeah, Charles, you should totally like pick up the user information." Yes, absolutely. And then I'll like joke about it every now and then. Hell, it'll even come up as jokes in the code. I got something in here that keeps track of the lag time between the samples that are sent. This lag time between the calculation being made and the samples being sent. There is a bit of a lag time, and it's part of a little block of information that gets sent. So you know like how much lag you're getting. I can also use it if say your headband times out. It's actually one of the reasons why I got this like blue ring here. That's
Hmm.
actually a status indicator for telling me if I'm connected or not. That's why it was
Oh.
red earlier too.
Oh.
But yeah, as a joke, I just called it telemetry. just to see if I can scare.
Hmm.
We did eventually just rename it to something a little bit better. Wait, what did we call it? I don't know. We were thinking of calling it meta or metadata. Oh, ooh, scary. But no. Yeah, for everything that I do, it's I am really like I don't want any of this data to leak out. How many times have I said that already?
Quite a few. The same way I did a mic bong counter for a Roomba and the few. I'm sorry. My brain's not working either. But
Yeah, no,
I
I
could
think
do
I
I
think
could
yeah,
do
the
a
microphone
counter.
bonk.
Yeah, I'll do a counter for it. But I do have another question. What kinds of things can be done with brain, the data coming out of your brain?
Well, if we ignore for a moment how badly my model is doing, okay, I say badly, but like it's doing all right. Um, World's your oyster, really. Here's the thing: face tracking, right? Body tracking, eye tracking, finger tracking. All of those are sort of one to one, right? You expect where your sensors are to be one to one with the movements in VR. Some have sort of gotten creative with it, and maybe when they blink, it also moves their ears and stuff like that. And again, props to animators for finding out a way to do that. Really cool, really fucking cool. Um, but beyond that, it's very much a one to one relation. Can't exactly escape from it. You already have an idea of what to do. With brainwaves, I don't know. That's the thing. You can do whatever you want with it, so long as you have right. You can either rely on the papers and work on either generalized stuff. You can work on other papers, examine where on the head you're measuring, and then use that to do motor imagery. So, like, say, two electrodes around your motor motor lobe, motor forget what the word for it is. Whatever. The part of your brain that's most associated with movement. We'll say that. Yeah, you could put your electrodes there and do that. Or you could start using machine learning and just start making the associations without having to do too much work. Still, I mean, there's some in between. There's still some math involved. I already explained the wavelet transform in order to get a better idea of what's going on. But yeah, that's the. Oh man, I drifted. What was the question again?
What kinds of things can you do with your brain data? Was the initial question. Like,
Ah,
whether amazing stuff or concerning stuff, at least so the audience can bear in mind what kinds of stuff be done with it, good or
yep.
bad.
Anything. Anything. So long as you got the model for it, anything. That's what it ends up. Well, you've got a lot of constraining factors like resolution. So how many channels you have on your headband, the cleanliness of your signal, the cleanliness of your um, contacts, the cleanliness of your training data. So there's a bunch of things that of course get in the way, but they just get in the way. They don't make it impossible.
Hmm.
So in truth, anything. Your brainwaves are not locked into one thing. That's the thing. And that's why it's also so dangerous to let that like go out.
Hmm.
So that's why it stays local to your machine and it only gets computed against it. You don't ever don't ever send the raw data out.
Hmm. Because anything you can do with your own data, other people can do with your data. But at least it sounds like it reads only and doesn't write. It's not like it can rewrite the data. It's just reading it. So people can.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's that. And yeah, so yeah, if you want to talk about I whew, realistic me comes back out. Anything huge asterisk.
Ah. That's a pretty fair point there.
So yeah. So it's like I said, I already mentioned like a couple of constraining things. Um, it's like I said, this area of study I mean, yeah, like I said, the researchers ahead of me have already kind of looked into it and found ideas on how to work on this. I'm just one scrappy hobbyist around a couple of other scrappy hobbyists. Some maybe with PhDs. We'll talk, give us advice. We'll make our own models, and it kind of works. Yeah, it's possible, and it can be bound to anything, and you can do anything. But again, it's very much based on your skill, knowledge, resources, all that jazz.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I very much thank you for your time, but time. It's greatly appreciated to be able to sit across from you today and get to meet and know you. So thank you very, very much.
Of course, of course. I haven't heard you talk in a while, Raptor. Did you have any questions for me?
Pretty much, it's just a listing because it's a field I have no idea. And it's very interesting just to listen and try to, don't get me wrong, I'm an old man. You know, they were doing brainwave things way back when I was a kid and everything else like this, trying to do things to get to get a car to move across the table, just by
I
thinking
think
it,
that's a Michael
you
Reeves
know.
thing.
Yeah,
You
but
guys remember? You guys know Michael Reeves?
Yeah, I've seen a bit of his content.
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah. Go on ahead.
it's just the scientific stuff like that and everything else like this. I'm scientific. I like all kinds of stuff and everything else like this. If it moves us forward, it's going to move us forward and everything else like this. And what you're doing, keep it up. Don't stop. You got the taste
Oh,
for it, go for it, and everything
I'm
else
not.
like this. But it's just the idea what you can do if you're taking us to the next step of be even in VR. It's the next step, and it's just little steps. You'll get there, and sooner or later, it's gonna fall in your lap, and you've already got it somewhat in your lap, and everything else like this. It's just okay. Keep going. Keep it up.
Of course. Thanks. I'm not stopping. There's no way. Yeah. I know I kind of
Good.
beat up myself a lot about this sort of thing, ooh, small guy. Well, I mean, I'm a little small, yeah. But uh
Well, at least you're not
Put it
Raptor
this way,
yeah,
small.
Charles.
no.
He's about the size of
You're
a
Oh
not
golf
yeah.
plus
club.
size.
Yeah, that's true. Size might not
Well, that.
mean a little much here.
Yeah, but you got to realize some of the stuff that's been created in the world, Charles, and everything else like this, just like Velcro. People go, well, yeah, Velcro, blah, blah, blah. And all it was designed off of a weed and somebody just ran with it. So look what you can do if you just take something that's simple. The simplest stuff can be the biggest stuff out there. It's just the way it goes,
Hmm.
you know.
Can I actually put it together, right? Duct tape and dreams, duct tape and dreams.
Dream, you got it.
Yeah. Yeah, but going from what I said earlier, yeah, no, I still see myself as sort of just, one of a few scrappy hobbyists working on this, but that well, I wouldn't say never, but for the most part, has never stopped me from wanting to push this forward.
Hmm.
Not at all. Not not ever. Just because I don't know. I don't whether this thing becomes big or small hasn't ever really played into it. It's something that's really personal to me just because, well, it is.
Hmm.
I'm I'm using it right now. You can see me focusing whenever. It's kind of I never explained that, didn't I? Patterns on my ears change based on how focused I am. You see the hexagons? I'm focusing.
Hmm. I also noticed it gets brighter
Swirls.
too.
I lost it. Yeah. That is based off of relaxation. You get me relaxed enough, it will not only will the color change to blue, but it'll also start to bring my ears down.
Ah.
So yeah.
And what
Yeah, this
about
is probably why I
the
didn't pick
tail?
up at all because it wasn't sexy. The tail is driven by my focus as well. So the bigger my focus, the larger the wag.
Okay.
So yeah, but
Oh.
yeah, no. Even if the stuff I'm working on is small, even if maybe in the future this sort of drops off, like I'm not gonna be sad about it.
Hmm.
This has always been a personal project that I see a couple of my friends using, and sometimes that's enough, right?
Hmm.
Seeing your friends using it and seeing them.
Hmm. Take your time, bud.
It's just hitting me now.
You should be very proud of
It's just hitting
yourself.
me now.
You
Yes,
should be
very much
very,
so.
very proud of yourself. Hmm. Well,
But I won't stop. I'm not gonna stop. This will keep going. Stay tuned. I've got more. You want to see the fireball again before we end?
sure, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it is a very amazing thing what you have built there, and thank you for building it. It honestly gets me excited for wherever this VR thing goes. So, thank you for even just working on it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, I plan on doing a lot more with this now that it's gotten to where it is. Uh, I want to see my friends be able to do some funny stuff with the machine learning. I'm gonna make like two versions of it, one for movement, the other for proper emotion. Um, yeah, there's just a lot to think about. Hopefully once I'm done sort of procrastinating slash having a break, we'll get back into it. Got got more in store.
Hmm. Well, again, thank you. Where can people find you if they wish to find you?
Um, well, I'm on Twitter. My Twitter is twitter.com/ChilloutCharles. Oh, sorry, ChilloutCharles. Someone already took chill out for some reason. Um, the I also have my link tree, which is link tree. I forget. I'll send you the links, but
Yeah.
I do have a link tree. So that'll get you everything from my Twitter, my Twitch, my Patreon, my GitHub, and of course the VRchat biosensors group. If you guys have an interest in, joining us scrappy hobbyists on trying to figure out using duct tape and dreams to do some of the things we thought were impossible, yeah, click that link. We'll see you there.
Hmm. And again, thank you, Charles, for coming to speak with us. It's an
Yeah,
absolute pleasure and honor.
pleasure. Yes,
Absolutely,
indeed.
it's been fun. I don't do a lot of these interviews, so whew,
Well,
I'm glad you guys liked what I had to say.
of course we liked what you have to
Yes,
say.
indeed.
It was very fascinating and I'm glad that we got a chance to speak with you. I learned a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
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 Yeah.
And with that said, folks, before I send it off to Raptor to do the close, see you in the metaverse. You know the thing.
I
See you
got you.
around.
No matter what you do, folks, like they say, a mind is not a wasteful thing. It's the best thing. It's just how you put it. And he just put it. chicken nuggets and Popeyes. Now I'm fucking hungry. We'll talk to you later, folks, and have a good one.